Hello again, grade 8s. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about how we can take a three-dimensional object and draw the top, front, and side views of the object. We're also going to look at how we can take the front, top, and side view of an object and then draw an object in 3 dimensions on isometric dot paper. And then we'll play around a little bit with the three-dimensional objects by rotating them about a particular point. Learning outcome is to draw and interpret top, front, and side views of 3D objects composed of right rectangular prisms. Let's start off by looking at a three-dimensional object. The object that you see on the screen, as you'll come to know later, is referred to as a right rectangular prism. And a three-dimensional object is a solid figure or an object that has 3 dimensions. These 3 dimensions are referred to as the length, the width, and the height. What I'm going to do is I'm going to label the length, the width, and the height of this right rectangular prism directly on the diagram. So let's start off with the length. The length would represent the distance from this left edge of the prism all the way over to this right edge. We have the width or the depth, which starts at this edge and it kind of goes to the back of the right rectangular prism. And then you have the height, which is just how tall the 3D object is. That would just go from the bottom all the way up to the top. So it's a three-dimensional object because you have a linear measurement for the length, you have a linear measurement for the width, and a linear measurement for the height. And those 3 dimensions put together give you a three-dimensional object. We're going to go through some terminology about different parts of the three-dimensional object that we see, starting off with a face. A face is a flat or curved surface on a three-dimensional object. So what I've done is I've shaded in one face of the right rectangular prism. That's what we'd refer to as the front face. So I'll label that. So this front face is just a rectangle. So that would be like face number 1. If I want to count the total number of faces, I'll sketch them in for you here. So let's do another one. There's also a face at the very back. Okay, so I'll kind of like shade it in here. So that's another flat surface of the 3D object. And this is what we'd refer to as the back face. And that would be face number 2 for my object. We have some more faces. Now, I'm going to just erase this wavy line just so I don't have overlap between the different faces I'm going to highlight. So I'm just going to get rid of this. Okay, and let's use a different color to identify some of the other faces. So let's go to purple now. Okay, so we have one face that's here. This is what I would refer to as my right side face. And this would be face number 3. We also have another face on the opposite side. So I'll shade in this one. That would be referred to as my left side face. So now we have 4 faces. And I'll erase these squiggly lines again just to illustrate the final 2 faces. So let's get rid of this. I'll get rid of that. And let's do the last one in green. Okay, then we have this face. Okay, this would be my top face. So that would be face number 5. And you also have one at the very bottom, opposite of the top face. And this would be your bottom face. Which is face number 6. Therefore, this right rectangular prism, this box, has 6 faces to it. Okay, I'm just going to clear all the ink from this page. And again, yes, that front face, that front flat surface is referred to as a face. And the 3D object that I've shown, again, which is referred to as a right rectangular prism. Again, we'll discuss this in more detail later on. It has 6 faces. It has a front, it has a back, it has a top, it has a bottom, and it has 2 sides, a left side and a right side. An edge is a location, a line segment where 2 faces meet up. Okay, so I've highlighted on the 3D object this line in the corner. This line in the corner is a location where 2 faces meet up. So I'll highlight what those faces are. If you take the back face, and you take the right side face, they meet up in this corner, and this corner is what I would refer to as an edge. So that's one edge on my 3-dimensional object. Any distinct line segment you have would be referred to as an edge. Now let's count the number of edges we would actually have in this shape. So I'll do this with purple. Okay, so this is one edge. Every line segment's an edge. This would be 2. This would be 3. This would be number 4. Okay, so those four line segments make up the right side face. If we go to the left side face, we'd have 5. We'd have 6. We'd have 7. And we have 8. So those 4 line segments together would give you your left side face. And then the bottom face, you would have, this would be number 9. Let's erase that so it's a bit more clear. Okay, this would be face number 9. And you'd have face number 10 at the very back. And the top face, you'd have an edge here, number 11. And you'd have number 12 at this position. Therefore, this right rectangular prism, it has 12 edges, 12 line segments where 2 different faces meet up. We also have a vertex. So again, I'm just going to erase all the ink here. A vertex represents a point where you have 2 or more edges meet up. So I've labeled one vertex in the top right-hand corner at the back. Now, this is a point where actually 3 edges meet up in the picture. So I'll highlight them. So you have this one edge on the very back. You have this edge that's along the right side. And you have this edge along the right side. All of these intersect to give you a very sharp corner, which is what I would refer to as a vertex. In terms of the number of vertex that you would have here, well, we can just count them. Like how many corners do you have? So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we got one more, which is down here, which would be number 8. Therefore, this 3D object or right rectangular prism has 8 vertices or it has 8 corners. Okay, so that's all my different terminology for a 3D object. We have faces, we have edges, and we have vertices. And that's a good exercise to kind of go through anytime you have a three-dimensional object. Just think about the total number of faces you would have and the total number of edges and the total number of vertices you might have. When you have a three-dimensional object, there's a special kind of dot paper that you want to draw the three-dimensional object on, and it's referred to as isometric dot paper. Some video games actually have kind of have the perspective of the video game from like an isometric perspective. I have a bunch of examples in my head, but you probably have no idea what these games are. Like there was a game for the Super Nintendo called Super Mario RPG that's in an isometric perspective. Another Super Nintendo game called Equinox is also from a three-dimensional isometric perspective. I mean, if you want, you can just quickly look them up on YouTube and you can see like the perspective that you're seeing. So again, Super Mario RPG or Equinox. Equinox. But the reason we like to draw it on isometric grid dot paper is because we can actually show all 3 dimensions of the shape. So here's how it kind of works. If you take one of these dots right here and you go straight up, okay, going straight up shows you the height of the three-dimensional object. If you go down and towards the right like this shows you what the length is. If you go up and towards the right along the dots, this shows you what the width of the three-dimensional object is. In terms of like how the dots match up with your three-dimensional object, the dots on the isometric dot paper must be vertices of a three-dimensional shape. So for example, I'll just take like one part of this object, just take one of these cubes that makes up the 3D object. And you can see here that all the edges, so that would be this point, it would be this point, this point, this point, this top point up here. All of the edges or the vertices fall on the dots. Okay, so that's how we draw it. Okay, so let's deal with this. Let's deal with the isometric dot paper in a couple of examples. So example 1 says, for each of the following shapes, sketch the top, front, and right side views of what the object would be. Okay, so let's start off by doing a top view. A top view means you're looking at this object straight from the top, looking down, okay? So if your eye was like right here, okay, you're looking straight down at the object. Now, the easiest way to identify what the top view would look like is I'm just going to shade in the parts of the object I would see if I was looking at it from the top. So from the top, I would see the top of this block here. I would see the top of this block. I would see the top of this block. And I would see the top of this block. If I translate that to a top view, all I would see is one row of blocks with 4 blocks. So I would see 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Okay, from a top view perspective, that is all I would see. Okay, let's change this to the front view perspective. So we'll do this one in green. Okay, the front view perspective would be you're looking at it from this perspective. Okay, so this is the front. And again, this is looking at it from the top. Okay, so from the front, all you would see is I'm going to shade in just the blocks I would see from a front view perspective. So I'd see this one on the left here, this one on the bottom, this one, and this one. I would see this one here. I would see this one there. Okay, so those are the only blocks I would see. Now, I'm going to translate the blocks I see into the front view perspective. So if I do that, I would then I could start off with a row of 4 at the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then one block over, you then go 2 blocks up. So you go up by 1, you go up by 2. Okay, that's my front view perspective. Now, as for the right side view, we're going to view it from this side. Okay, we're going to look at it in this direction. So from the right side, what would you see? I would see this block, I would see this one, and I would see this one. So I'm just going to have 3 rows with a single block in each row. So that would just look like 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, that's a pretty simple object. Let's look at one that's a little bit more complicated. Okay, so top view, we're going to look straight down at this thing. And let's shade in all the blocks I would see from the top view perspective. So I would see this one. I would see this one. I would see this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, let's start off in this in this bottom corner here. Okay, so I'm going to start off right here. So I'll shade that block in. Now let's go up the stairs. So if I go up the stairs, I would then have this block to the right, go up another step, and you'd have this block. Actually, my bad. We need to actually, if you're looking at it like this, we need to have our, I don't want to word this. You want to have your length across this side. So your length should be on this side. Okay, and this side of your width. Okay, so actually, let's erase this. My bad. Yeah, this represents, so if you look at the grid paper here, this is your length, and this is your width. So actually, let's start this very top block in the corner here. Okay, so let's do this block in the corner. Okay, so we start in that block, and then we go across lengthwise. We go over to the right by 1. Then we start to go down the stairs. Okay, so we go down by 1, go down another step. If we start in this corner and go in this direction, we would go down by 1 step, down by another step. And what else are we missing here? Well, if you go down by a step here and then go down by another step, we'd actually have a block that you'd see at this position. And over on the side, if we're on the far right-hand side, we actually would have one more block sticking out. So it would look like that. Okay, let's go to the front view. So let's do that one in greens. The front view is we're going to view this from this perspective. So that's my front. Okay, shade in all the different blocks that you would see if looking at it from the front. So I'd see this one. You would see this one, 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 and that one. Okay, so again, let's start off at the very top here. So that's going to be in this corner. Okay, so we go down the stairs, we would go down by 1, we go down by another 1. If we move 1 over to the right, we would have another block up here. Then we can drop down by 1. And we can drop down by another 1. If we're at the top here and we go down a step, we'd then be down to here. And we'd have 1 beneath that block. And then we just have 1 more block in the very corner, which would look like this. Right side view. So we view it from this perspective. So let's shade in all the blocks I would see from the right side. So I'd see this one. I'd see this one. See this one. These two. This one. And this one. Let's actually start at this bottom step here. So we start at that bottom step. We would have a block here. Okay, we can go up by a step right here. If you go up by a step, there's actually a block below it as well. We can go up to the very top now. Okay, at the very top here, we'd actually, from our perspective, have 3 blocks beneath it. So it would just look like that. Okay, so that's how you take a 3D object and you draw the top, the front, and the right side views of that object. Let's say you want to go in the reverse direction, though. You want to do the top view, or you have the top view, you have the front view, and you have the right side view, and you want to draw the isometric view of what this would look like. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to start off by drawing the top view perspective. And again, remember from the top view perspective that this is going to represent the length. And this side represents the width. Okay. This is the height. This is going to be the length. And this is going to be the width. Okay, so let's start off by drawing this block up at the very top here. So if I draw this, I'm going to have a block. Okay, this block here is this one. Okay, let's draw this block now, which would just be to the side of this one, lengthwise. So then it would be located here. And we draw this block, and it would be located right there. Okay, that's my top view perspective. Let's do the front view now. Okay, so the front view, now we have to incorporate height into this. So we're going to go down by 1 block, go down by another block here, go down by a 3rd block. So now we're at this position. Go back up to the top here. So we go down by a single block. Then we have a hole. Okay, so we're going to ignore that for a moment. Then we have this block, which would be located right there. And then the top, we would go down by 1 block, go down by another block, and go down by that final one. Now, the problem right here is if you look at this from this perspective, we can't really tell the hole is there. So the way to draw the hole is I actually need to draw a line inside of here. Okay, because then what this does is it shows that by putting that line inside of there, you can actually see that you could actually fit a block into that tiny hole. So I need to have that line that goes in there just to represent that. Okay, now let's go to the right side view. So the right side view, draw this block. So we just go down this block, go down again. This final block would be right here. This is actually much tougher to do. To start with the 3 views and draw the isometric view is quite a bit more complicated than just having the 3D object and drawing the three views. We're not going to do a ton of this where we actually have to do a 3-dimensional picture of the object. Most of the focus is going to be on doing the top, front, and right side views. Let's go to the 3rd example. So it says the diagram show the top, front, right side, and isometric views of a 3D object. And I want to rotate the shape 90 degrees clockwise on its base and then redraw all 4 views of this object. Okay, so this is a little tricky because we're going to try to rotate this shape. So let me show you how I'm going to rotate this thing. So I'm going to draw a line that's just parallel to the bottom of the shape here. And I'm going to draw another line that goes in this direction. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this thing and I'm just going to rotate it so the bottom of the shape is still on the ground, except we're just going to change its orientation. So I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to rotate it like this by 90 degrees clockwise. Okay, now if I rotate this thing by 90 degrees clockwise, what's going to happen is the right side view is now going to look like the front view. So if we do this, I would then draw to my isometric grid paper. So it would look like, okay, we got one block here, one block there. Okay, so this side is now this is facing this side. So the side that was facing the right side is now facing the front. Okay, and then if we draw the rest of the block in, got a vertical line there that I don't want. Here, let's get rid of that. Okay, and then we got to come out here because we got that middle of this middle gap. Another block here. I'm just drawing the same shape. Whoops, I made a mistake here. I should be, I got to rotate in the other direction. So my bad. Let's start this over again. I'm just drawing the same thing. What am I doing? Okay, let's start off by doing this face first. So we would have okay, here's the block. It goes down. And what happens is, okay, now we go over here, go up, okay, go across like that, and then go down, and a little line right there. Okay, so now that's right, because now this right side view is now the front view over on that side. Okay, so to sketch this now, so the top view, you'd look at it from the top. So from a top view perspective, I would just see this block. I would see this one. Whoops. And I would see this one. So I just see three of them. And I would see these three blocks are aligned in the width direction. So that would actually look like this. You'd have like a block here, a block there, and a block right here. Okay, if we view it from the front view would be from this perspective. And from this perspective, you would just see two blocks, this one here and this one there. Okay, so that would look like this, and it would look like that one. And then if you view it from the right side would be from this perspective. So you'd have the block here, 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 here. And then if I draw that, I would then have, here's my right side view. Now, part B says, which original side is now the new front view? Well, I actually already answered that question. So the new front view is this picture. So if I look up here, which these original views is actually the new front side view? Well, it's the right side because you have two rows of the single block in each row. So I'd say the right side view. Okay, part C wants me to rotate the shape 90 degrees clockwise onto its right side and then redraw all four views. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line like this, a line like that. And this time I'm going to tip the block like this. Okay, it's going to go in this direction. So we're actually going to take this right side view, we're going to tip it so it's now on the ground. So 90 degrees clockwise. Okay, so let's sketch what this would look like. So if we sketch this, we should actually see a C shape from the front view perspective, or from the front view perspective. Yeah, C shape. So we've just taken this thing and we've taken this part and we've rotated it so it's now flat on the ground. So that brings the rest of the C shape up. Okay, look at our different views. So our top view, we go from this perspective. From the top view, you'd only see two blocks. So this one and this one. From the front view, we'd actually see the entire C shape. We'd see this, 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 and this. Okay, so we'd have this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then from the right side view, which is from this perspective, we would actually see 3 blocks. We'd see this one, we'd see this inside here, and we'd see this one. So we would just see 3 rows of the single block in it. And then D says which original side is now the new front view. Okay, so this is the new front view. So let's compare it to like what our original sides look like. Definitely not the top view, definitely not the right side view, because I need to see that C shape. The front view is the closest to this, but it's not a perfect match. Okay, it does have the C shape, but it's not in the correct orientation. So here I would actually just say none of the sides. And I can put in brackets. The front view has the correct shape, but the wrong orientation. And that's it. In your surface area and volume work booklet, you need to complete the assignment that's called Views of 3D Objects. And then in the next lesson, we'll talk about drawing the nets of a 3-dimensional object. And I will talk to you then.